All right, folks, thank you once again for your patience on this channel. I am doing videos a little less frequently, but that might change in the next few weeks. So I want to thank you for your patience. It's really been happening more around new moons and full moons. And of course, we have a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus in a little over 24 hours at this point in time. And so I am here to do this video. I want to thank you for sticking with me, first and foremost, and listening to these videos and subscribing to this channel. And if you haven't subscribed, watch this video, and if you feel so inclined, feel free to do so once you feel comfortable doing so. I would love that. Anyway, more information on that as we get to the end of the video. Let's dive into this full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus that everyone is making such a big deal about, which it kind of is, actually. I toyed with doing 2 videos, and I might still do that. I'm going to see how I feel once I'm done with the content of what I wanted the first video to be about this eclipse. So do one today, do one tomorrow. I want to do one video on sort of the bigger picture, the macro perspective on this eclipse. And this may not be a long video if I do that, but there's enough about that is thought-provoking that I feel like if I try to do both the macro perspective and the micro perspective, and the micro perspective would be the stuff I usually cover in my new moon and full moon videos, you know, where's the moon happening, what are the aspects that are being made to the full moon, what are the aspects that have been happening on the way to the full moon and that the full moon is encoding, and what is the rulership and the dispositions, what are the rulerships and the planetary placements related to rulership of the lunation chart. And all of that will get covered. It'll either get covered in this video once I'm done talking about the macro perspective, or else I'll do one tomorrow. One thing before we do the macro perspective anyway is that one thing I want to start off with saying is we had Mercury retrograde between September 27th and October 18th. And Mercury went direct about a month ago. And it will not surprise me for people who are still connected to what that felt like. The end of September 27th to October 18th. I have my notes down here, that's why I'm looking at them. And for this video, usually I extemporize. For this video, I really wanted to have some data here in front of me. So just know that when I'm looking here, that's what I'm looking at. That Mercury retrograde and the issues and the stuff it brought up should now be... And eclipses and lunations don't just happen in isolation out of nowhere. You know, they are part of a continuing story. And so as you head to this eclipse, and even the next couple of weeks, issues and things that were raked up during that Mercury retrograde September 27th to October the 18th are now going to be finding their way through to resolution and clarity. The drama created by the retrograde is likely to be subsiding. And more data, more clarity may be coming into the picture to give you a sense of forward movement, some of which may be surprising because you might find that you are being much more deliberate about how you are making decisions. Now, my goodness, we have some active doggies in this neighborhood, and it's funny because it's still quiet in Los Angeles. You know, it's getting busier post-COVID, but you still hear a lot more than you used to. Previously, everything was sort of dimmed under the noise of traffic. As far as this eclipse is concerned, so stuff that came up during Mercury, you know, that it's funny when I'm trying to focus and channel that kind of noise can be distracting. I'm sorry, this is going to look unattractive, but I'll be back in a sec. I just closed my window. I was enjoying the fresh air, but this is going to help me focus a lot more. Thank you. So issues and drama and stuff that came up when Mercury was retrograde September 28th to October 18th should be finding its way to, in some cases, surprising resolutions, because what might have seemed really stressful and really intense and really confusing and up for review may, now that Mercury is direct and moving forward, feel like the waters may feel less murky, especially if you have Mercury direct in your birth chart. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two, planets are direct until December 19th when Venus goes retrograde, and then in January, Mercury goes retrograde. So between now and the middle of December, for another month, it is all systems go and it is forward movement. Okay, so part of the reason why I'm bringing up Mercury retrograde issues and the water clearing and us moving forward, if we should be feeling this sense, and this eclipse and its placement and its timing is very much aligned to this feeling of forward movement. We are moving somewhere. And when the personal planets are direct and the outer planets are direct, for the most part, that's what it feels like. Acceleration. And then when the personal planets go retrograde, as Venus and Mercury will, in about a month's time, and then in January, then it's time for certain faculties or certain archetypal characteristics and behaviors the planet going retrograde represents, for those forces to kind of take a step back and process whatever it is that this forward movement has brought. So if it's feeling like you are heading somewhere in this forward movement, then that is the right feeling. With these eclipses and with these lunations and with Mercury being direct and things starting to get clear and the world looking fresher, hopefully, and more interesting and more exciting, even though the manifestations of that excitement may not entirely be here yet. They're still developing. But I would invite us all to just kind of leave no stone unturned until the middle of December and just go for it and try and create the sense of forward movement and go after your goals or whatever it is that you want to do and see where that leads you. Because and in the process, by all means, dot the I's and cross the T's, because when Venus goes retrograde, and Venus is the ruler of this full moon lunar eclipse, when Venus goes retrograde on December the 19th, we will be processing what we value and what has a sense of worth to us. And when Venus goes retrograde, December the 19th and through January of 2022, for a lot of people, it can represent a period of financial tightness. So if you need to start thinking and conserving as you get to the holidays, depending on what you do, it's okay to be thinking about just watching your P's and Q's. Forward movement does not have to mean reckless spending necessarily. Forward movement can mean forward movement and keeping in mind what resources you need as you look ahead on this track that you're on and moving forward and creating and manifesting and trying to create the next thing, whatever the next thing is, and move forward in that direction. Okay, so two things. Some of this I might repeat in tomorrow's video. I am going to keep this just on the macro level. One is Mercury retrograde issues starting to clear up in interesting and fascinating and unusual and unpredictable ways that we may not have predicted. More deliberation, more details, more facts being considered, hopefully supporting the sense of forward movement and going somewhere, and then keeping a line of sight to Venus going retrograde in a month's time, and that time period often signaling or signifying a time of financial or resource tightness, so we can evaluate what it is we value and whether or not our money is actually ruling our life or whether we're ruling our financial lives, and we're clear about how we're using this resource to support us on our journey. A key component, key message of Venus retrograde when it happens. Now, this eclipse, which happens close to about 2 a.m. on November 19th here on the West Coast, you are welcome to find the timing for your location, is the first of the Taurus Scorpio eclipses. And the Taurus Scorpio eclipses are going to remain with us through 2022 and through 2023. In 2022, all the eclipses, the 4 eclipses, will occur on the Taurus Scorpio axis. In 2023, both the lunar eclipses, the full moon lunar eclipses, will occur on the Taurus Scorpio axis. So they'll be wrapping things up in 2023. And it's a nice long time to have a focus on these eclipses. Well, it's nice if they're happening in a part of the chart that is nice in your chart. And if it's not, then it's a little bit prolonged, but it is part of our story. All throughout the second half of 2021, we have been talking about moving forward while closing out issues from the past and from behind. And as I've mentioned, the lunations till the middle of December, which at this point in time we're talking 2 more lunations, one this full moon lunar eclipse, then the solar eclipse on December the 4th. Both of these still encode slightly stressful transits that have, again, continuing this theme of wrapping up stressful items that require certain kind of boundary setting from the past so that we can identify this portal into the future and move towards it. And that energy continues for another month. But this Taurus full moon lunar eclipse is a portal of the future. First and foremost, because it signifies the new set of eclipses, and it's a North Node eclipse, where it is that we need to put our attention, where we need to put our energy, where we need to develop, what is meant to grow, where we're going to get our lessons from, our soul lessons from, where we have to acquire skills, where we have to lean into and do the hard work and build our muscles and engage, even if we're not entirely sure how, so that we can acquire and learn, and our soul can quench its thirst to experience the changes that are coming in the Taurus part of your chart. So worth it to know, if you know your birth time, to look at your chart and see where the sign of Taurus sits in your chart, what house it occupies, and what that house stands for, because there's a need to lean into that part of the chart and tackle challenges, set goals, and go after those goals, and conquer fears that are related to those goals, and build the muscles and build the skills to move in that direction. Okay, so it is a portal into the new, and 2 months before November the 19th, September the 19th, a week before, week after, could provided important clues thematically or even in terms of events. And of course, the week before and after November the 19th, pay attention to what is going on around this time. And because it's a full moon, you might just find that the past few days have been busy, and they just might continue to be busier as you head towards this full moon eclipse. But the week before, week after, important events, significant events. People who've been watching my channel for a while know that with eclipses, one of the slightly more challenging things to look out for is news or information about mortality, about people in situations being eclipsed into and out of our lives. And so often around these dates related to eclipses, we can hear news or get information, whether it's our own health or someone else's health. Some sort of issues around mortality it can also come up. So I will say that and set that here just in case it comes up for anyone who's watching, and you can make a mental note of it. It is part of a journey that continues for the next couple of years. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is part of the reason why I wanted to say this and then kind of leave you with a shorter video right now and do the rest of it tomorrow, is that the eclipse on November the 19th, 2021 is at the same degree as the eclipse that occurred on November the 20th, 2002. 2002. Now, I know what I was doing in November 2002. I know now, looking back, what that eclipse signified. I know where Taurus sits in my chart and what house it occupies and what that house stands for. So it's not going to be identical because we are not reliving the same life from, 19 years ago? It's interesting, because in 2003 and 2004, we continued to have Taurus and Scorpio eclipses, but the eclipses in 2022 and 2023 are not all in the same degree or in the same sequence. But this eclipse harkens back to its same degree, practically the same date, to November 20th, 2002. And if you remember, where you were at, what you were preoccupied with, what you were wishing for, what you were hoping for, what was happening, what change happened. And you may look back and the change could be something that happened, but it sort of develops 2 months later. Think back to that time and where you were and what happened around that time. And you can look back 2 months and post 2 months so you can look at sort of September to February, September 2020, 2002 to February 2003, and we have enough distance that you can actually look. And you might say, Avi, you're asking to look at over 4 months. I'm also asking you to look back 19 years for whom this is relevant. And so, if you were an adult at this point in time and dealing with something, there's an echo to that time. And thematically, not in terms of actual events, you're on the brink of something in the same way that at that time you were on the brink of something. Okay? And I'm not going to say that the stresses you're feeling now are identical to the stresses then, although thematically the preoccupations may be similar. You may, hopefully, have evolved in 19 years so that maybe the changes that you're sitting on, the developments that are occurring now, are more authentic to you than they were 19 years ago, even if it's a similar thematic development. It could be, for example, if it was something that is happening in the house of romance. It may be that 19 years ago you were on the brink of something, or you had met someone, and maybe looking back you realized that yes, that was significant, but may not be completely reflective of who you authentically were. And you may be feeling now that you are kind of on a similar brink, but you are in a much more authentic place. 19 years will often do that to us. And nothing wrong with kind of reflecting on that. And with coming off the heels of a Mercury retrograde, eclipses are often, some of the ancients would often say that eclipses should be a time of reflection and meditation, that they are not the best time for action. I'm not in that camp, because sometimes I just think, action is going to happen if you get an interview around this time, or someone proposes to you, or you release an album, things happen, and so you've got to go and meet them. You can't just say, oh, it's an eclipse, I'm going to meditate. Leave no stone unturned. Let the change come. Remember, excuse me, I know the cough sounds, remember, I've been a little bit unwell and it's not COVID. So there's still a little bit of a lingering cough. Okay, so please don't be alarmed. For those of you who watch my channel. So as we get past Mercury retrograde and we start to feel like the train is moving again and we're moving forward, and Jupiter's getting ready, we're in Aquarius to kind of finish creating its start of a 12-year cycle. And as we head towards December and the changes that it's going to bring and the retrogrades that are going to happen then over the next month, there's a sense of all systems go. But at the same time, because remember, eclipses are when God takes the wheel. So we do not neglect and they have this mysterious quality. They have this kind of like, what's going on? Something's up. I can't tell what. And you've got to cooperate with that energy. But it's not a bad idea to just kind of find a few minutes and just reflect back to, if you're old enough to do so, to November 20th, 2002, and just get a sense of what that felt like. And enjoy the resonance if you can. Hopefully it's an enjoyable resonance, because it is the brink of a new set of changes and developments. As I said, if you're having the eclipses in your 12th house, that's not as much fun as having the eclipses perhaps in your 5th house, or your 2nd house, or eclipses are still wild cards, but they are fated changes, and fate has to work with you, so you co-create them. But with eclipses, things happen, fated things. God has fate. Lightning can strike. And remember, we have 4 to 6 eclipses every year, and the day of the eclipse, do not believe the press on the internet and just think that something ridiculous is going to happen tomorrow. There are a series of eclipses on this axis for the next 2 years, and so the developments may happen at other eclipses. Just where does Taurus sit in your chart? What house does it occupy? What does it stand for? So, as I said, where is Taurus in your birth chart? What house does it occupy? What does that stand for? And what was going on for you on or around November 20th, 2002, okay? That is all right now that I want you to think about. And it may not take you hours to think about it, and that's okay. But that reflection, that meditation, that meditative space in the midst of all this busyness, because it's a full moon and because it's a full moon eclipse, and your intuitive senses are probably a little bit on fire, and you can feel the development of the new, and you can feel that some of that manifestation is in process, and it may not be here yet. Eclipses can bring offers. Eclipses can bring big news. So for some of you, it'll be this eclipse. For some of you, it'll be some of the other eclipses. And don't forget, we have the eclipses of release in Scorpio coming up. Now, on the old Gemini Sagittarius eclipses axis where we've been having the eclipses, we have one more eclipse on December the 4th in Sagittarius. So this new energy is starting and will be a lot more present during 2022. But at the same time, we're still going to be dealing with releasing whatever we need to continue to release in the Sagittarius part of our chart, at the very least and most intensely between December 4th, 2021 and February 4th, but likely during the first half of next year, 2022 as well, okay? But this eclipse is the first in a new cycle. If you don't know your birth chart and you're feeling like there's a forward momentum, you're not wrong. If you can link back to November 2002, excellent, try and do so. And if you can't, and if you can and you know where your birth chart is, as I said, just think about and reflect on where Taurus is in your chart and what that signifies. And that'll give you a sense of where it is that you need to put your focus for the next 2 years. Okay? Hope you found this helpful, useful. Subscribe to my channel, as I said before. Click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified whenever I do new videos, and we will take it from there. All right. Until my next video tomorrow, where I'm going to get a lot more sort of focused on some of the details around this particular full moon lunar eclipse, but very much as a full moon in and of itself. Okay, but for now, I just wanted you to process what I just shared. Thank you.